Pretty day to fly a drone too. Cloud cover. Might be joining Mike Reed and doing some midday pheasant hunting out here. All right guys, well here it is, July 2nd, and this is officially day number 1 on the new piece of property that I have permission on for the 2021 season. Excitement is at an all-time high. I mean, I can't even begin to explain. It's a pretty cool feeling to have sole access to a piece of property, and this is the first time in my life that I've ever been in this situation. But we just got here. I've got Gavin behind the camera, Carson's with us, 2 of our interns for the 2021 season. They've been doing a great job in here since the spring, and we're at point number 1. Carson and I actually snuck out here a couple of days ago for a couple hours, and this is where we identified a potential stand location. We're right along this big CRP field that we'll kind of dive into, and this is just what I would consider a very good pinch point that might serve us well come late October and early November. So what our plan is today, basically right now we're going to go speed scout. I'm going to try to identify stand locations, potential camera locations for the summer. We've got a lot of interior bean fields on this farm that I think we can get some really cool velvet in the next few weeks. By the end of the day, we'll come back, kind of cover what we found, and then ultimately I just want to go over how I got here. You know, how did I get access to this farm? What do I expect to do with it? And ultimately, how am I gonna, use what I learned today to hopefully kill a buck come this season? So, it's gonna be an exciting one. It's hot, and we're gonna get going. And you can at least get 20 feet on both. You know what I mean? I think it'd be plenty. We've identified this tree, and this is gonna be what I would consider on the east side of the farm. Big CRP field on this side, and behind Gavin about 15 yards, there's an old natural, I don't know what they use it for, whether it was tractor access, etc., but there's a trail, long story short. And then about 38 yards, there's an old tree, and it is littered with scrapes. You can see old licking branches tore up right there. And so that tells me there's obviously buck activity here, and with the crop rotation this season, there's actually corn along that edge. And so what this creates in my mind is a bunch of intersection points. The tree line is going north to south, which is good for us just in the sense that we have a tree here to sit. But that being said, I'm not sure how these deer use this right now. So one of the things that I've thought about doing is putting a food plot on the north side of the tree stand we're thinking about hanging, and creating it in almost a horseshoe type of way. Because with this big CRP field, chances are if we call to any deer, they're gonna come in downwind, probably just walk this tree line up to us. If I put it in a food plot up there, potentially put a scrape post up there, but another thing that I really want to try this season is using a decoy. And so my thought process is if I can give them something to key in upwind, he'll still try to come in downwind as that decoy, but that'll give us a shot and he'll still won't catch us. So potentially a good spot, not sure. I kind of am trying to decide, do I want to put food plots here in the first place? Or year number 1, would I rather just hunt it on the natural movement? Going into year 2, try to figure it out and put my food plot locations around that. So it's an exciting spot. If I was gonna call my shot, this is gonna be a good tree. It's a great observation spot, and it's also a good spot for potentially killing a buck. So very excited about that, and got some work to do for sure on this potential location. They definitely were tearing this stuff up. But what did he look like? That's the million-dollar question. We are in here in one of the bigger portions of timber that are on this parcel, and to say it looks awesome is a severe understatement. I've been walking and actually marking on my Onyx map. There's this trail, it's going north to south, and above us is the CRP field that you saw us in earlier. And what we're trying to figure out right now is if there's any potential stand locations. Again, another reason why I love thinking about holding a tree stand over where we're talking about doing the plot. We'd be able to see any deer that are dumping into here. Obviously, this is gonna be a great location for a camera. You know, I'm actually probably gonna put one in here in the next few weeks when I deploy my CuddeLink system, but this just screams rut to me. You know, there's trails going everywhere, lots of big trees to get into. It's just a matter of figuring out where can we blow our wind safely, how can we best access it. There's actually a little cutout in this ditch that I think that we could almost walk in. We would probably just have to come in here with either a chainsaw or one of the Hoyman electric saws and clear it out. Doesn't look like there's anything too big in there, so I think we could take care of that. But that would make this a lot quieter to access, because what we would end up doing more than likely, if we see any movement, if we see any trail cam pictures that bring us down into here, we're definitely gonna come in, do a hanging hunt early in the morning and try to catch these deer coming back to bed. So again, the biggest problem with this farm's access. I mean, I can only come from the north and we are walking everywhere at this current moment. So I either gotta get my hands on some sort of electric bike or something. I don't know if it's just a bicycle, but it's gonna make this a lot easier. But there's rubs all throughout this. It's beautiful. And I cannot wait to see the transformation come this fall. All right, well, that's a wrap on today. As you can see, we got a change of clothes and we're back in the truck. Unfortunately, the wind just did not set up correctly to velvet film on the farm, but Carson and I are still taking advantage of the evening, doing our nightly routine and driving around looking for some bucks. And we've seen some pretty cool ones over the last few weeks. Two come to mind. One was a bunch of drop tines and just character points all over. And then we saw a really heavy, massive deer that looked like he could finish out pretty impressively. So just that time of year where the itch is really strong. And man, you know, hopefully you guys weren't super bored with the segment today, but I cannot explain how excited I am to, you know, learn that piece of property. You know, just kind of taking a step back where we started last year. You know, I was working for permission on Lee Abraham's property where I shot that velvet buck. That farm actually sold, and then, you know, that put me back to the drawing board of trying to find a place to hunt. You know, when I was looking for this next piece of property, there was a couple of things that I wanted to be checked off. You know, number one was going to be the neighborhood that the piece of property was located in. You know, that's something that's very important to me, is trying to find like-minded neighbors, and that's something I'm very anxious to see, is if I can start to build some relationships down there. And from what I can tell on the maps, man, it definitely looks like a good neighborhood. It looks like guys take it pretty seriously. So fortunate to be down there. Number two, I was looking for a place that, you know, was going to be able to hold deer, hopefully all season. You know, obviously when you're in Iowa, you've always got a chance during October, November, but come late season, if you don't have the food, you might be in trouble. And from what I can tell, the place that I've got has got a pretty decent shot at being the destination food source for a lot of these deer. So I'm very excited about that. And then number three was just trying to find a place that I felt like would give me multiple stand options, you know, hunt bigger than its acreage basically. And the way that that farm lays out, you know, I kind of briefly mentioned it when we were out there, is, you know, you've got the east section with that CRP, there's the big draw in the middle, and then on the southwest corner of it, there's where the cattle are right now, but that's just a whole different spot. And we didn't even make it to the other two today. So there's a lot to learn. It's, you know, I was able to do a lot of recon and scouting using leaf off maps. That's probably the biggest tool that I try and find, is when looking at a new piece of permission or a lease or public land, whatever it is, trying to find those fall maps, because I was able to learn a lot about where trails were. You know, when we were on the farm today, we were able to pick those different pinch points out. especially specifically over in that CRP. So hopefully by the next time I see you guys, got some bucks on camera, and just again looking very forward to the journey, learning the piece of property day by day, and ultimately seeing if we can't fill a tag on it. So hope you guys have a great 4th of July holiday. Appreciate everybody who makes that possible, and we'll see you guys next week. Back to the left.
Right here.
There's 2 of them, Jim.
Yep. That one's better now.
I'm excited to watch Josh put all the pieces together and figure out that property. You know, he and I spent some time on FaceTime this morning looking at the maps, and he was talking through some ideas he had about stand locations and just what he's learned so far. And to me, that's a lot of fun to follow along a story like that. I know from personal experience how fun and how challenging hunting new property is. I've gained and lost a lot of permission over the years on different properties. To me, it is part of the fun. Like, it's a new element to the hunting. It's a constant learning process, and I get questions all the time. Okay, I'm hunting a new property. What advice do you have about figuring it out or learning it, or just how do I hunt it? And unfortunately, there's not a blanket answer to that. Every property is a little bit different. Every situation is different. So I'm not going to offer specific tips, but I'll talk a little bit about some general things that I've learned over the years that have helped me learn a property. And sometimes that's learning a property over multiple years, not always in the first season you're going to get figured out. But a few of the things I like to start with are, one, the aerial maps like Josh mentioned. My first goal in figuring out a property is to learn how the deer use it and what that general direction of movement is. So like I said, you start with the maps for that, and especially if your property that you just gained access to has some upland or like wetland cover, like grassy areas, where you can really see the trails on an aerial map, whether that's Google Earth or some other leaf-off map. If you really dive down, you can see those trails going through the grass, and if you follow them, there's almost always a rhyme or reason as to where they're going. If you follow it long enough, you'll see, okay, it was going to this head of the ditch crossing, or it was going into this funnel. You know, you can follow those trails a long ways, but there's always a reason as to why they're moving a certain direction. And from there you can start putting pieces together saying, okay, they must move here this direction in the evening as they're going out to this destination ag field or this destination food source. And this is the way they work their way back. So you start to put those pieces together and starting with the aerial maps. But I will say there's no substitute for being on the property in person and getting some time with your boots on the ground. I've been able to find a lot of things that I've never pick up on an aerial map. So aerial map, good starting point, but don't use it as a substitute for time on the property. I have a number of examples over the years, but the best example or the most memorable one was the 2016 season when I got access to a new property, and that access didn't come till I think October. So right at the start of our season. So I didn't have time in the off season to scout it. I was forced into having to make those adjustments on the fly. I would sit stands where I've had a lot of visibility, quote unquote observation stands, but I was willing to make the adjustment as needed. So a hang and hunt, let the hunt play out, take notes of where the deer came from, where they're going, move the stand another 50, 100 yards, whatever it took. And it was that whole season, it was multiple weeks of doing that until I finally ended up in the general vicinity that I wanted to be, where I saw a lot of deer movement, fine-tuned the stand placement from there, and was able to kill a good buck late in November.
Well, the sun's just about to peek over the horizon here. Morning of November 21st. Zach and I are settled in here. I've hunted close to the spot, about 40 yards up the hill, and had a really good hunt. A lot of the action was down here, and I couldn't shoot from up there. But this little spot, it's a small little piece of timber, and it seems to be a good transition area. I had on the other side of it the other morning and saw some really good movement, so at least know there's a lot of does in here, and I'm hoping that's the place to be. Like I said, it's a little bit aggressive coming up in here, but it's also November 21st, so I don't have much to lose. It's time to just get in what I believe are the best spots and hope that one of these big deer that I have on camera comes by. So that's what we're hoping for this morning. It's probably mid-20s. It feels good. Feels like a good November morning.
Go down, big boy.
Just like that. I mean, the sun is just coming up. First deer we see, that's a stud of a deer. I'm not even 100% sure what deer that is. He's a stud. Man, that happened quick for sure.
That's a stud, dude. That's a stud.
Well, we brought him down this clearing to give a little better look. Still hasn't quite hit me yet. It just happened all so fast this morning, but this is a deer that I don't know. I have some really good deer on camera on this farm, but this farm is brand new to me. I've probably only have 8 or 10 hunts on it this year. A number of good hunts, but it's been a lot of fun to learn. I've kind of been taking every single hunt one by one and making adjustments based on what I saw that particular hunt, and this is a classic example of that. We're only 20 yards from a tree stand, but this is my third hunt in this little tiny piece of timber, and each time I kind of adjusted and found the right tree. This morning it worked out. Awesome hunt. It's been a long November. It's been a grind. I've seen some really good deer. I've passed a couple decent bucks, but deer this caliber is what I've been holding out for. So extremely happy with it. It was a fun hunt and looking forward to the late season. Like I said earlier, that really is the fun part. If you're willing to embrace it, you're willing to constantly learn. Hunting a new property can be a lot of fun. Then that's really the best advice that I can give you, is let the deer be the best teacher. Learn from them how they use certain property and move in from there. So I'm excited, like I said, to watch Josh figure it all out. I think it's one of the more intriguing stories we had this year, and I have faith that he'll definitely have some good hunts. It's a good property, and I can't wait to see what bucks show up. Moving forward, it's getting to be that time of year where the deer are really starting to hit the soybeans hard, and our guys have been taking the cameras out to the field with them. So hopefully we'll have some good velvet footage to show in the upcoming weeks. I know I'm excited to get out and see what some of these bucks look like. Appreciate you guys joining. We'll see you next week.